We got a big battle in front of us, baby. And it's just started. So let's get funky like a monkey. For 16 years, the American dream has done it with you. Don't fail me now. No, don't fail me now.
All right. The Wrestlebros are back. Captain Lou, Vic Blaze in the building, like always. And here to talk about a little NXT TakeOver Vengeance?
Yeah, Vengeance Day.
Vengeance
On
Day.
Valentine's Day of all days.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting.
Interesting indeed.
Did you enjoy the show?
Man.
Was it?
I would venture to say thumbs in the middle. Just because I think, again, all the people worked really hard. So, you know, I never question the wrestlers' efforts when they go out there and do their thing. It's just a matter that there were parts of this show that I wish either were done differently or not at all. So, you know, we'll get to it when we start, you know, going at it piece by piece.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Of course, I'm never gonna agree with everything that happens, but I thought it was fun. I had a good time, and I thought there was some nice angles, some interesting stories. It wasn't the typical NXT storylines where it's like just somebody shows up and gets in somebody's face, and it's I'm the next, which is the only way they do stories. Like, so it was interesting, you know. So to say the least, they got me at least focusing in on some of the talent. Like, I wonder what's gonna happen with this person. I wonder what's gonna happen with this person. Which to me is a problem with WWE. It's like almost the opposite. It's like you're interested at the very beginning, and then you start to, okay, whatever. You start to, you know, almost you stop caring almost. So this show kind of for me got me like a little interested at least. I'm interested. I'm watching and I'm paying attention. I want to see. Okay, let's see what happens next. You know.
Fair point.
How about we start with the newest acquisition? Wait. LA Knight.
Better known to wrestling fans as Eli Drake. Why did they give him LA Knight? Why? Just why?
Luckily, the guy can talk his ass off, so he'll probably find a way to get it over. I don't love the name, but you know, whatever. It's not the first time that we've had somebody with a really cool name, and then eventually we get over it. So whatever. Like Prince Devitt, we got over that. I was pissed. Finn Balor, but it's good now. It's a cool name now. The almost the entire Shield, like Ambrose, I wasn't a big fan of that name. Rollins is a cool name, but Tyler Black, that's a fire name. You know, for me. So, you know, if they get over, we forget about the name. Like it's like the name doesn't matter. We forget that it's a bad name. So this is a tough one. This will be a tough one because it stands out, and it's part of his gimmick. He's gonna do it every night.
Yeah, so, LA Knight.
So every night. Let's see. He's really good. To me, I compare him to when EC3 got to NXT. I was like, he needs to hurry up and get out of NXT as soon as possible. He is more of a main roster guy. Some guys fit perfectly in NXT, like a Gargano and Adam Cole and Ciampa. Well, Ciampa, I think, will fit both. But there are certain guys that I worry about more on the main roster. There are some guys that I kind of don't need to see them in NXT. Eli Drake or LA Knight is in that mold because he's almost going to, compared to the other guys, he's going to come across as a way bigger star for me, I think, really, really quickly. Almost like a Karrion Kross, too. It's almost like he's too awesome. It's like, okay, so now what? He's going to win, and then you're going to be stuck with him down there when he probably should be on the main roster. He's better on the main roster. It'll be cooler to me if he's on the main roster. Same thing with him. Same thing with EC3 when he was there. Some guys I just don't want to see that long in NXT. If he's gonna be there for 3 to 6 months, 3 to 6, but with a plan. That's the concern. We know he needs to get up to the main roster. We know it. He's not gonna be NXT forever. There's some guys that might be in NXT forever, like a Johnny Gargano. You know, he's not gonna be in NXT forever. They need to have the right plan and bring him up, with a good plan.
See, my concern is with, listen, first off, bravo on both, for both parties. One is because I think that it's going to be hard for me to call him LA Knight, so I'm just going to call him Eli Drake. That's his Christian name. We'll go with that. But when he went and he signed, obviously Eli Drake, this is his second tour of duty with the WWE. Way back when, we're talking probably about a decade ago at this point, where he was last in the WWE. He was much younger, much more, much less experienced. And throughout the course of the last, decade or so, where he's worked a lot of the indies, he's been on television, because I know that he's worked on Impact, he's worked on NWA. I'm not sure if he's worked Ring of Honor, but I can Impact and NWA, yes, I can say that he was on those programs and he was fantastic. The thing is here is that he was a guy that for a long time, I was like, okay, I don't know what the NWA's business model is right now, whether or not COVID is wiping them out, for lack of a better term, meaning that there just isn't enough money to kind of keep the promotion going. But he was a talent, Eli Drake, that I was like, I know WWE is going to be checking for him real quick. And I'm glad that it worked out that they were able to get him, because I think that, in all honesty, he's a talent. Obviously, despite the name change, I'm not in love with the name, but again, you're right. If he gets over, I'll get over it pretty quickly. I'm not sure if he needs to be rushed up to the main roster. And I say this primarily because of the fact that if NXT was a WWE Network exclusive program, then I would say yes, because you want to get more exposure putting him on television. However, having NXT being on the USA Network and knowing that, again, even though WWE and AEW, there really isn't a Wednesday night war, because really both shows are not that great. But having somebody like him, give me the face you want. Neither show is great, in all honesty. Neither show is. But to have a situation where you can have a guy like him be on NXT and infuse, get a fresh face with a ton of personality and a very good in-ring worker, you have a possibility of having a major star for the NXT roster that can help it, kind of help. I don't want to say rehab it, because there really isn't much rehab to do, but having a personality like that can really help elevate other talents that may be fantastic workers, but you need personalities to kind of get that out of them more. So I think that a guy like him, Eli Drake, is going to be fantastic for the NXT roster. I think it's going to be the first of, probably several acquisitions. Again, I don't know what what's going on in the NWA, but I know that they've lost a lot of their talents over the last maybe 6 to 8 months. They've lost a lot of people. So, and the thing is that these people are spread around. They've gone to AEW, they've gone to Impact, they've gone to the WWE. So I don't know what the end result is going to be, but if the NWA is, in any kind of threat of going out of business, there's going to be a lot of really good talent that are going to be available, that are still going to be available for, all these companies to pick up. So I think it was a really big pickup for WWE to get Eli Drake and put him on the NXT roster. And in all honesty, I think that I wouldn't rush him to the main roster. I think that this is actually a really good chance for him to be able to be the star of the show, for lack of a better term. He doesn't need to be on the main roster just yet. It has nothing to do with his talent. It just has to do with the fact that there's so many other things going on when you get to Raw and SmackDown that he might get lost in the shuffle, versus NXT. There can be a much more focused, spotlight put on him, and he can be able to shine that much brighter.
Well, for my flavor, I'd rather see him in the main roster. And if that means bringing guys down to NXT that fit the NXT style, to me, there's an NXT style. It's basically it's like a Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit every night. It's like super technical, super athletic style, and I don't see Eli Drake in that mold. That doesn't mean the whole show should be a bunch of people who work the same style. I don't necessarily like that.
No, that would be boring. That would be boring.
But
that's why a guy like him is so good, because it's not like he's all bluff and no stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like he can.
No, he's good.
He's an excellent in-ring worker to boot with his excellent promo. So he could be a heel. He could be a big mouth heel. He can back it up in the ring. You got yourself a star. So I think with him, keep him on NXT. You can put a nice big spotlight on him. Listen, if a guy like him can help the NXT ratings, that's great, and it allows him a platform where he can get more shine. He could be brought up to the main Raw, SmackDown, pretty much at WWE's discretion. They can bring him up whenever they want. I just think that it shouldn't be a rush project. Keep him on NXT as long as you need him, and give him every opportunity to get over, every opportunity possible, because he certainly will.
All right. Women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Finals. Dakota Kai, Raquel González defeated Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart. I kind of wanted. I know the right thing to do right now is for Raquel to look, like the best thing, the best female in NXT, which is fine. I think you could do that and still have them lose, because at the end of the day, there's no money in Dakota Kai and Raquel González as a tag team. To me, when I saw Ember Moon and Shotzi together, I was like, this works. It works for me. And WWE struggling with the female tag teams. They really are. They basically have none. They keep making random teams and that don't kind of make sense. But when I saw them, I was like, this makes sense. This makes so much sense. And it can only make more sense the longer you keep them together. And especially now that Ember pretty much has lost all of her steam. That she had, what was it? When was she NXT champ? 2 years ago?
Oh, no.
3?
This probably dates back, golly, maybe the first or second Women's Royal Rumble. So we're talking, I don't know, 2018 maybe.
Maybe, okay. Maybe 3 years.
And I'm guessing at this point. I don't know the exact dates, but
she's pretty much has lost all of her steam. It would be very hard to get her back to a main event level, but in a tag, I think they could have got over. I think they'd be instantly one of the coolest tag teams, period. I think, and Raquel didn't, you could have pinned Dakota Kai. Raquel still could have got pissed. She could have got a heat back, and then she can go on her merry way as the dominant single star that she's going to be, and she can take over the world. What are we going to do with Dakota Kai and Raquel as, whatever? They're going to get a tag team title shot. They're going to win? Maybe. They can win. It's possible. But it's not a long-term, whatever. It's like a quick little thing. Raquel looks good either way. I think you could have made a few more stars instead of just Raquel. So you could have had 3 stars instead of 1 star. So now they have 1 star potentially. I guess we'll see. It's not a big deal either way, but
I mean, when you put it from that perspective, I can't disagree with you. The only thing about it is what I would not have booked the baby faces to win this match, period. And again, it's because when you take a look at, Raquel González and Dakota Kai, they've been presented as a unit on television now on NXT TV for the better part of the last year. if not longer. They've been presented as a unit. So they're not a makeshift team by any means. Now, yes, initially the way that this was presented as a means to give Dakota Kai muscle and be able to, establish a position for her, because when she turned heel, it kind of seemed not believable because of how Dakota Kai's gimmick was presented priorhand, when she was, the next best thing to Bayley in terms of white meat babyface. So when you bring Raquel in, Raquel was very green, and to Raquel's credit, she's worked incredibly hard to change her physique, and she's gotten much better in the ring. Part of that, I think, is because she's worked with better athletes, but pairing her with Dakota Kai was actually mutually beneficial for both. Now it's gotten to a point where those roles have changed, and now it appears that Raquel González was kind of the secondary player to Dakota Kai initially, and now those roles have switched, where Raquel González is now the star of that particular duo, and Dakota Kai is essentially her heater. That's totally fine. Do I like the idea? Do I like the idea of Dakota Kai and Raquel González potentially winning the tag team titles? The answer is yes. With all due respect, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, that is a makeshift tag team if I've ever seen one. I know that the more you see them, for the viewer, the more we kind of get used to them as a tag team. But in all honesty, those two need to be single stars, because listen, for all the stuff that people bemoan about Nia Jax in terms of her in-ring work or whatever, she has a tremendous look, and as a single star, she could be a dominant, heel or babyface, however they want to present her. And Shayna Baszler is special, and with all due respect, I don't like the idea of having her in a tag team unless it's with Ronda Rousey, because that looks and feels like an honest team. This is just it is what it is. I'm not completely in love with it. If they were to put the tag team titles on Dakota Kai and Raquel González, that is super high profile for both of those women. One is because obviously with them now, they're the women's tag team champions. They can bring that to NXT and have another title to defend on a regular basis. And on top of that, they could then do what you were suggesting. Instead of having them drop the Dusty Cup, which was a much lesser match for them to drop, let them win the titles, continue keeping Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. I do agree with you with them as a team. They do look like something as a team. The gimmicks meshed well together. Again, I like both Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon for two very different reasons, but I don't like either one of them enough to put them in any way, shape, or form to get over Raquel González today. Now, if you tell the story and you have Raquel and Dakota be the tag team champions and tell the story over the course of a couple of months' time, again, you're establishing Raquel González as the dominant force in that team. And the reason why they're the champions is because Raquel is kicking everybody's ass. If you then establish that when they lose the titles, Dakota takes the fall, then it gives more credence to when Raquel says, all right, we're done, I'm going on my own. And then she can become the NXT Women's Champion, which it appears that that's where it's ultimately going to go. It's just a matter that you can tell a lot more stories here, and I think that there is room. There's still a lot of room. That's the reason why I wouldn't have the baby faces win this match, because it's too soon to have Raquel lose. This hot streak that she's been on, it's been very calculating, and I don't think that it would have made any sense. Even if Dakota would have lost and she would have taken the fall, I don't think it would have been a good look. Raquel needs to continue winning, and she has to be the one that wins the matches, not Dakota. So I'm okay with the heels winning, with the idea that they become tag team champions and ultimately drop the titles to Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon, have them drop the titles to them. If we want to talk about the match was what it was. I mean, they tried. God bless them. They really tried to give a different perspective on what the tag team match is supposed to look like, but they ended up messing it up. You know, they had Raquel González start the match, and she was basically dominant. And I'm like, if Raquel is the heel, you know, usually the beginning of the match is that the baby faces get their shine. The heels then, you know, the baby faces make a mistake. The heels get their heat. They can tag Raquel in. Raquel can start beating the piss out of Ember or Shotzi, you know, flip a coin, who's going to be the baby face in peril. Have them get their ass kicked for 8 to 10 minutes. Make the hot tag, get the other one in there. Then they start putting some double team moves together. They're able to get Dakota down, and then they're able to get Raquel down. Raquel then has to make a mistake to make herself vulnerable to where then the baby faces can double team her and get her down. But a lot of the things that they did here in this match, especially when Raquel was getting, you know, in these very vulnerable situations where she was getting the long 2 counts, where she was put in submission holds and looked like she was ready to tap out. I was like, I was like, no. I get that you're trying to create excitement in the match and you're trying to make sure that they all look on par with each other. That's why you have Dakota Kai out there, with all due respect. She can be out there to get all that heat and take all those blows and be put in those compromising positions. Raquel González should have never been put in those positions. Period. Just none at all.
All right, we had Johnny Gargano defeated Kushida. Clean, right?
Yeah.
Pretty clean. It felt. I know it's technically their first singles match, right? They kind of been doing. They've been doing
a lot of tag team matches.
They've been doing a lot of interacting, but this is the first match, so technically it's probably not the blow off. It felt like a blow off, though, didn't it? It felt like the end of the feud. It felt like Gargano got it clean in the middle. We don't need to see this match ever again. That's what it felt like. I don't know if that's what it is. But I just wonder what is the plans for Kushida. How do they see him? You know, is this a guy who's never going to win the North American title? Is he just going to do maybe 205 Live or something like that for the rest of his life? Or is he just out there to have good matches? Maybe it's just that.
I mean, listen, when I saw the match, this was the first thing that I thought to myself was they meaning WWE did an excellent job of getting rid of Gargano's minions. They got rid of the Way. So they got rid of Candice LeRae, they got rid of Indy Hartwell, and they got rid of Austin Theory. With Austin Theory, obviously, when they had Dexter Lumis come in and I guess smother him with chloroform or something and just knocked him out and he was gone. That was nicely done because he did it and the other 3 had no idea. Then Gargano goes to do the little high five with Austin Theory, and when he was realizing he's high-fiving air, he's like, he turns around and looks at the women. He's like, where's Austin Theory? They shoo the women away, and I was like, perfect. It was a nicely done way to do it where the referee didn't have to do it and they didn't run interference against Kushida. I thought the match was really good, like technically a very good match. They do everything just right. They do all the wrestling and counter wrestling in the beginning where, listen, you know, Johnny Gargano, from a personality perspective, you know, I can laugh at some of the things that he does because I can tell that he's really trying to, you know, to get out with a personality. Like that's not natural to him, but his wrestling skill is outstanding. Kushida is a guy who's an outstanding wrestler, an outstanding junior heavyweight wrestler. The difference is that Kushida, when you look at him, Kushida doesn't have anything from, and forget about his wrestling. His in-ring wrestling skill notwithstanding, we're not talking about that because that's top notch. We're talking about his look. When you see Kushida, there's nothing about his look that makes you want to look at him. Nothing. He comes out in jeans and sneakers. He has the whole Marty McFly Back to the Future thing, but once he takes that off, he's in ripped jeans, black wife beater shirt. It's just like, it's really weird and offsetting. And I'm like, and I don't like the look because I'm like, Kushida, I've seen Kushida wrestle in other places and his trunks and his look always look cool. Like Kushida visually, not knowing anything about him, I'm like, all right, I want to look at this guy. He looks kind of cool. You know, his tights are colorful and all this. So it makes me want to look at him. And then once the bell rings and it's like, oh, damn, this guy's a really good wrestler, all the better. I think that the WWE's kind of stripped away the visual component that can make Kushida appealing. And the overall wrestling is not good enough. And what I mean by not good enough is that he doesn't cut promos, so he's not a guy that's going to engage you with his promo. His visual look is not very good because it's very bland, and his wrestling, as fantastic as it is, as fantastic as it is, so many times people can overlook it and just be like, all right, if you see an NXT show with 6 or 7 matches, Kushida's match may not stand out unless the person that he's working with is somebody that you as an audience member are engaged with and care about. So I think that working with Gargano, the NXT fans are very engaged with Gargano and all the things that he does. So you're going to remember the match. But the match was very good. Everything they did was excellent. I don't like the fact that Gargano beat him clean because, again, it kind of gives credence to what you said. It's the first match and the heel won clean. Where do we go? If Gargano would have cheated, then it makes sense to be like, all right, well, you know, Kushida got screwed out of this match. It gives more credence to the next match. But I kind of feel bad because I'm looking at Gargano and I'm like, who are you going to work with next? Another rematch with Leon Ruff? You know, no disrespect to Leon Ruff. He's a lot of fun and he's a likable guy, but, you know, I don't want to see him working with Gargano. Because those matches seem to be more comedy matches, although they lace them with some level of seriousness. But at the end of the day, I can't really take it that seriously. Versus with Kushida, they had an opportunity here to really make him seem like more of a menacing badass, even as a babyface, and I don't think they did it. And part of it's just a visual look. It's just it's not appealing. And the matches can be as great as they are, but if Kushida didn't get screwed over and he didn't win the title, then it kind of feels like, all right, where do we go from here? You know, Kushida's only had 2 matches on NXT that I really, really enjoyed. This one with Gargano and then one that he had about, I don't know, a year and change ago with Walter. Like, those were the only 2 Kushida matches that I really remember him having on NXT.
Yeah. It's funny because WWE usually is hell bent on changing someone. And as soon as he got signed, I was like, okay, good. Let's get rid of the Marty McFly stuff. Because I'm sure in Japan, it's really, really cool. And even in America, Back to the Future, everybody loves Back to the Future. But I don't need to see a wrestler doing cosplay of a Back to the Future permanently. If you do it, you know, at a special event, you come out looking like Marty McFly, that's cool. But for your gimmick to be built around Marty McFly, it's a little weird. Like Gargano, he wears a different superhero outfit every time, but it's just for, you know, like an outfit. It's not
and not for nothing. Now that you mentioned that, yo, Gargano's jacket, that was lit, bro. That jacket looked awesome.
He usually has pretty cool gear. You know, he picks a superhero or supervillain, and then he builds his costume. Yeah, he had like a Wolverine.
Yeah, Wolverine this time.
Yeah, so he'll build his look around that for one time. Maybe he'll do it again in a year or whatever. But he does, you know, every takeover he has a new outfit. That's the way to do it. But you don't build your entire gimmick around such a noticeable property. Like, you know, if you want to take elements, it's better if you do it personality. If you look at a character from television or from movies and you go, oh, see the way he does that right there? That's pretty cool. I'm going to add that to my character. Because as a wrestler, I'm sure it's hard because you kind of want to be yourself, but you're also a character on television and you got to remember all these things about yourself to make you stand out.
You got to borrow things. You got to borrow things from other people. That just not...
I think it's better when you borrow stuff so that you can have somewhere to go. You go, okay, my character is like this character, and you'll never forget that. Instead of going, okay, 3 weeks ago I was using a chair, so now I got to use a chair all the time. Or I got to make sure I do that. You know, it's like it's hard to remember little things, but these little character details that you can pick up from other properties, but visually, no. So you would think that they would change him. they made him go even further into that realm. They're like, you know what? If you're gonna be Marty McFly, let's go ahead. You're gonna get Marty McFly sneakers. Not the actual ones, but a fake version, a not as good version. You're gonna wear the jeans, and we're gonna go all out. They need to go completely opposite. They need to get rid of the time splitter thing, get rid of the Marty McFly gimmick, give him something new, something fresh. And honestly, after this loss, I kind of want to see. I don't know what I want to see him do. I kind of don't want to see him in NXT anymore. Like, I don't know. I mean, he can be in NXT, but he needs to go away for a month, come back with a new look, or join a stable, or do something. Do something else. Get a tag team partner. Something different.
It's so weird because although I know that he's Japanese,
Yeah,
but
put him with the Chinese crew.
well, here's the thing, right?
They're doing interesting things at least.
Well, here's the thing, right? When you take a look at that crew, it's designed to give Xia Li a new personality. They introducing Karen Q as as obviously the I guess the whoever the sinister person is, it's Karen Q.
Karen Q was my coworker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Geez, years ago. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
We were coworkers in Queen Center Mall.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I know she's from Queens. So yeah,
we worked in Queen Center Mall together.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a really cool story. Hopefully we can get her on one day. That'd be awesome if we can get her on.
Well, let's see if they reveal her. If they reveal her, she'll probably ignore me if I text her. Now that she's famous. But
no, but what I'm saying is that with Boa, Boa would be the odd man out, meaning that he's never been presented on NXT as anything. And if you were to put Kushida in that role, of course we know that he's Japanese and he's not Chinese. We know that, but could you imagine if they were to, if he was to go through some kind of a metamorphosis? And believe me, as silly as the presentation is and the way WWE's had to work to explain it, because it's silly, but I think that the metamorphosis part at the end might be worth all the silliness, as long as once we get to the metamorphosis, that becomes the focus and it's no longer all the histrionics around it. It may work for Kushida, because again, I agree with you. The whole time splitters thing, that's come and gone at this point. He's been doing that gimmick for way too long. And it's transferred from the Indies and from Japan, and he's brought it to the WWE. Listen, Kushida's a fantastic wrestler, fantastic talent. The gimmick's got to go. It's just got to go.
Yeah, that's that's an interesting take. I do think he does need a change. If they can present it. Let's say if they take that Karen Q character, let's say if she's in charge of changing people. And I'm okay with the silly stuff as long as one, you keep doing cool shit and people like it so much that the silliness doesn't matter. Because when you can get away with stuff when you're over. It's when you're not over and you're trying to get something over and you do a bunch of silly stuff that people get pissed off. They're like, enough of this, I'm over it. And also just don't bring it necessarily into the ring. Don't give this Karen Q character special powers. Not because I don't like special powers in wrestling, but because you book yourself into very difficult situations that you can't get out of, because sometimes Bray Wyatt has powers and sometimes you can beat him and sometimes you can't. And it's silly. You can't keep it up. You can't keep it up. So you can tell the silly stories, just please don't give this person silly powers.
I don't think they will. I think that personality is more of like an inspirational figure, but kind of instills fear in her charges, and I think that that's really what this is about. But there are moments where, again, I just wish that if you was to put Kushida in Boa's role in this particular group, I mean, you never know. It may actually work. Because
they might have to do
more over than Boa is.
Just to avoid any hate mail, they might have to do it to an American wrestler first. You know what? What if similar to the Bray Wyatt character, anyone who kind of feuds with this group has a metamorphosis. Like, like you don't necessarily have to join them to be changed. You
Well,
can join them and be changed. You can
yeah,
not join them and be changed.
I
Just to not get
part of
any
it.
hate mail.
I would probably say that they don't want to go down that same route only because of the fact that Bray Wyatt has got that market cornered, and with all due respect, Bray Wyatt is exponentially more over than any of those talents we've just mentioned.
Well, of
So
course, of
it
course.
doesn't. I don't think it behooves the WWE to make that happen. I think if the approach that I would probably take is that it kind of comes across like a bit of a dojo, to where they're it almost feels like they're they beat you down, but it's with they beat you down with the intent of making you
What,
part of the family
what
kind of.
if they do? What if they do? Chinese demon ninja cult dark order style where they recruit people and not recruit, but people show up to the dojo and you can use random people who don't matter, but then Kushida eventually shows up and gets his little change or whatever. Yeah, I'm
Exactly.
sure they could figure something out.
I'm sure. Listen, they got a lot of smart folks working out there in WWE. They can figure that one out. We're not getting paid to give them free ideas.
All right, let's go to this men's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Final. Um, First thing I will say, I don't like that when MSK wins this match, they get this WrestleMania celebration, but when the girls won, they didn't really
Well,
get
they
a
got it too.
celebration.
They got it too.
It didn't seem that big.
They got the whole shebang. They got
I must have fell
standing
asleep
in front of the
because
trophy, William Regal shaking their hands and the confetti and all that. Oh yeah, they got
it didn't
the
seem
women got it
it didn't
too.
seem as crazy. I don't know. Maybe they maybe the camera work was a little different, and maybe they
Okay,
didn't hold it long enough
no,
for me to
the
notice.
women got it too. Yeah, they certainly were not shortchanged on that.
All right, so MSK, which we still don't know what that means, or maybe they did explain it, but I don't know what that means. I'd like to know what that means. Carter and Lee defeated the Grizzled Young Vets, Drake and Gibson, who we talked about. They're like they got the revival role. They're the solid workers that make baby faces, look good or try to make baby faces look good. Um, have solid matches. I mean, for me, I think they have solid matches. I think they're good. I thought this match or these moments, whatever, I thought it served its purpose. If MSK, if you didn't know who they were or you didn't care about them, I think you are at least curious and you want to see some more of them. You want to see what they can do. I thought they looked good. I thought they showed off what they can do. They stand out as a really freaky athletic team, and I think it's weird. It's crazy. Sometimes in wrestling, it happens. It happens in sports too. Somebody like James Harden. James Harden's in OKC. Then he goes, gets his own team, and all of a sudden, he's the best he's ever been. So MSK's on Impact. We see them. I saw them for the first time when they showed up there. I'd seen Xavier before by himself. I never saw the other dude. What was his old name in Impact?
Oh man,
Well, he's Carter now, right?
yeah,
So
don't ask. I mean, I'm not
so
I
Carter,
wasn't that caught up on their stuff on Impact.
I didn't see him ever before, but I knew they could do athletic stuff. But they were getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit, at everything. Their characters, promos and their bodies, um, you know, their matches. Everything was, there was a comfort level. They were getting more work, and it's funny. Like as soon as they get here, everything clicks right away. In my opinion, I thought they looked very confident. All their stuff hit. You know, they didn't miss a beat. They were on top of their game. I know they work very fast paced, super indie style, which I know you don't like, whatever. Um, but for what they were trying to accomplish, they were able to do what they wanted to do with no hiccups. Even if you don't like the layout or the psychology, they what they were trying to do, they did it. You know, which is not always easy to do when you're on this big stage that, you know, and the match was set up for them to shine. So all the pressure is really on them to show what they can do. And a lot of people would probably be very, very, very scared and nervous in that situation. But I thought they killed it.
No, I mean, listen, when you take a look at Wesley and Nash Carter, right? So Wesley is the black dude, great physique. He looks like something. I don't like his haircut, but that's me being nitpicky. Carter kind of comes across to me physically. He looks like Chuck Taylor physically, and y'all have already heard me bemoan about Chuck Taylor's physique on many occasions before. If you're gonna be a professional wrestler, you know, work hard to look the part as best you can. The one thing about this match is kind of very similar to my complaint about a lot of the matches on this particular show, is that the matches went too long, and I understand that the whole thing about NXT TakeOver is, you know, it's only 5 matches, each one usually gets 20 plus minutes. The thing about it is that on this particular card, a lot of these matches didn't need 20 minutes. You could have either made this show 2 hours, or you could have put in at least one more match on the show as a means to be able to offset the times on some of these bouts. I didn't time this match, but easily this match couldn't have gone any less than like 18 minutes.
It was 18:26.
So there you go. So, you know, 18 and a half minutes, but it felt like it was 45, you know, because it was just the match. When the match began, it obviously began properly, meaning the heels are trying to establish dominance over the baby faces. Baby faces are able to foil them with their speed and all of their high flying stuff. The heels then get their heat spot. They start beating up on the baby faces. The problem is, and this is just an issue with modern tag team wrestling, is that when it comes time for the heels to get their heat, they don't get long enough heat. So usually you would have a match where the babyface in peril would be getting the piss beaten out of them 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. It's almost to the point where the audience would be screaming for that hot tag. The problem is that in modern wrestling, the heat is probably 2 or 3 minutes, and then the baby faces get a hot tag. Here's where the problem happens. Generally, when the hot tag occurs, the clock is ticking. That generally means is that, all right, we're going to wrap this thing up. And there's no way you're going to wrap up this match in 6 or 7 minutes. It doesn't make any sense. So you have to slow the match down that much more. And what it felt like is that the baby faces were able to get flat-footed tags. They had constant hot tags. The heels would get these subpar pieces of heat. And then whenever the baby faces made their comeback, it just broke down into a spot fest. All the different high-flying stuff, all the different shit that they can do. And I get it. MSK are incredibly athletic guys, and they do work that indie style. And part of the reason why I say I don't like the indie style is because of the fact that the indie style is more about spots, and it's not about psychology and layout. It's just a matter of just balls to the wall, all the spots in the world. Generally, if this was happening in other places outside of the WWE, I can understand it because of the fact that it's a lot more of an open field. The fact that they're kind of allowing these guys to do it here is kind of like, I get it. NXT is kind of like WWE's tip of the cap to independent wrestling. But again, I just didn't like it. I thought the match went way too long. I was like, I don't need to see 18 and a half minutes of these two teams, because with all due respect, Grizzled Young Veterans are not that over, meaning, and I know that they wrestled on NXT UK, and for a long time, you know, there was a shutdown in the UK. They couldn't wrestle at all. We didn't see them in the United States. But even despite that, they've never been presented to the US audience as a formidable tag team, even though Gibson and Drake are a very good tag team. So I'm not pissing on them and their talent. They're very, very good. It's a matter of perception. If this match was designed to be completely about getting MSK over with the intent of, you know, let's display the Grizzled Young Veterans being this rough and tough tag team, you lay out the match to where MSK is all about high flying, and really when the Grizzled Young Veterans beat them down, they beat them down to the point where you get sympathy. you got no sympathy on any of the MSK guys because the matches are not designed and laid out that way. They're laid out to just kind of be, they break down the spot fest. They do dangerous spots. You know, they did one spot where I think they did the Doomsday Device or some variation, like a dive off the ropes and the guy's on the shoulder and he does this flip and I'm like, why the hell are you doing that? It's unnecessary. You don't need to do it for that match because it's the first time you guys are wrestling. I get it, it's for the Dusty Cup, but at the same time, save some stuff for later. I'd like to see you guys rematch. Don't give me everything. You know, I know that sometimes I've always said that you got to give people everything on give them the best match up front because you get diminishing returns later on. But the thing is, you're not going to get diminishing returns because you're not selling anything. These are all television matches. So nobody's paying money to watch you guys wrestle. You just turn on the TV and you watch it. So give us a little bit less, essentially get MSK over, give a good account for the grizzled young veterans and call it a day. This match could have been 12 minutes long and they would have gotten the point across. They didn't need the extra 6.5, 7 minutes of just spots and stuff. It's just like it gets to a point where I'm like, all right, enough. And that's the point that I'm trying to get at is that on this particular show, and I get it, NXT TakeOver is about the long match and every match is 20 minutes. No. On this particular card, you could have done without a lot of that stuff. And this match is a shining example of that.
All right. We got Io Shirai defeating Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm. And she pinned Toni Storm, right?
I believe so. Yes.
I wonder why did this need to be a three-way? Knowing that three-ways are already kind of a headache. I understand if Io Shirai was going to lose, you can always work it that one of the other two girls pin each other or whatever. Mercedes pins Toni, Toni pins Mercedes, and Io Shirai is kind of, like, what the hell? I wasn't even involved in the thing. You can always play to that. But if you're not going to do something like that, is it really necessary to do a three-way that the match is going to be 10 times more difficult to make good? I kind of like takeovers, and when the women are given that one-on-one spotlight, they usually deliver. Three-ways, I don't think we needed a three-way.
Listen, I agree with you, but here's where the issue lies. The issue lies is that in this particular pairing, the WWE just did not do enough to make Toni Storm or Mercedes Martinez any sort of a credible threat to beat Io Shirai. Now, let me explain myself. When you take a look at Io Shirai is a fantastic, super fantastic talent. But the fact that she's so small physically means that at all times, she should be vulnerable to losing the title. At all times. She should always be presented as the person who's coming from underneath, that you always look at her incredible talent, but that every single opponent that she gets in the ring with is usually bigger, stronger, and can physically dominate her. So that should always be the psychological thought that you put in the viewers' minds about Io Shirai being vulnerable to losing the title. What ended up happening in War Games, unfortunately, is that when Raquel González beat her, what it did is that it sucked all the life out of Toni Storm. Toni Storm was in that match, and Toni Storm did not have a great performance in terms of being spotlighted. And then everything else that they did subsequently with her did not do enough to elevate her. In all honesty, I thought, because I know that I said this in past videos where Toni Storm, I was like, all right, Toni Storm is going to be the one to beat Io Shirai. But the way that Toni Storm has been presented, there's no way in hell that she's going to beat Io Shirai, at least right now. And Mercedes Martinez, God bless her, because listen, people who know about professional wrestling know about Mercedes Martinez, and they know that Mercedes Martinez has been wrestling for 20 plus years, and she basically worked all the indies when women did not get the opportunities that they get today. But Mercedes Martinez is a badass. And if people don't know about Mercedes Martinez, you better educate yourselves, because she's nothing short of phenomenal. But same piece of business with her is that she's not been presented at all as a credible threat to beat anybody for the title, in this case, Io Shirai. So what made this match very dull is, yes, it's a triple threat match, and triple threat matches, once you get multi-person matches, the matches tend to suck because they just tend to. It's very rare that you get triple threat matches of any kind that are good, because the focus gets divided. But in this particular case, the reason why this match was flat to begin with is because the outcome was never in doubt. And the thing is, and I know that I've said this in other videos, so I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting myself, because I've said it. Even though that the outcome is never in doubt, it doesn't mean that the match cannot be good and entertaining. In this particular case, the outcome was never in doubt, and unfortunately, this trio paired together did not work. It's a contrast of styles. The things that Io Shirai does very well, she needs to do it against one opponent. And the fact that she has to work against two different opponents that do a lot more power stuff, and they're not canceling each other out. It's not like they're heels that they're trying to attack Io Shirai, but then as heels, what do heels do? They only help each other until it's advantageous for them to stab the other one in the back. That never really happened. So I'm like, there's so many things here that could have been done better to make this match more palatable, even if we knew that Io Shirai was going over in the end. Again, I mean, I know that this match went some like 12, 13, 14 minutes.
12.
You know, and again, I was like, it sucks, because in no world should I say 12 minutes for a women's title match is too long, but it felt like it was too long. It's just because there isn't enough of a hook in terms of the psychology of the storytelling to making me care. And it's like there are moments where I'm like, they just start doing shit for the sake of, and at that point, once they just start doing these big spots for the sake of doing it, I'm like, get to the finish. Just get it over with. Because at this point now, you've lost me. I'm not coming back. It's time to go home. And, you know, listen, it's not a knock on their effort, because all three women worked incredibly hard. It's just a matter that on this particular night with these three women, it just didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work for me either, which is, they could have pretty much done anything, and I probably would have liked it, because I really, really, really like all three girls, like a lot. It just didn't work for me. I think they should have did a better job of building up one of the girls, pick one. I also think it should have been a good enough job that one of those girls probably should have won. They obviously didn't build them up that way. They haven't been building them up that way. But when Toni Storm came back as a surprise, whatever, that should have been the beginning of a big build.
Right.
Mercedes is probably out of their hands, because they cut off her momentum when they sent her up, which probably was a Vince call and had nothing to do with, you know, Triple H or whoever's doing creative in NXT. And then she was forced back down, or she decided she didn't like being, you know, whatever. Apparently it was her decision. She was not feeling it. So that she went back to NXT, but she was probably already out of the plans. But when I first saw Mercedes show her face in NXT, I thought, okay, she could be the damn Undertaker of the female NXT division if they do it right. You know, she could be this big, imposing, you know, almost scary, very intimidating, you know, presence. You know, she take her very, very seriously, have her kick everybody's ass. Even if you don't want to put the belt on her, make it important to face her. It's a big deal when you face her, and you're probably gonna lose.
If you're able to get past her, then that means that you're on to the next thing.
Yeah, you know, so I'm invested in the girls still. I'm hoping things get better. I'm ready for someone to take that belt off Io, but they have to build somebody up to do it. And they just didn't do enough with these girls. Maybe this is phase one. Let's see. Um, but I'm ready for Io to drop the title. There's a lot of girls in WWE. If they need to find somebody else to do it, if they feel these girls are not, getting over enough, or that they don't want to put in the work and write the right stories, let's find the right let's find the right person. Let's find the right person.
We'll get to that momentarily. We'll get to that momentarily.
All right, let's get to the main event. Finn Balor versus Pete Dunne. Finn Balor picking up a big win, but Pete Dunne pretty much not dominating, but took a lot of this match and got a lot of his shit in, which I like, because on this show, the good thing about this show is that it kind of spotlighted some of the people who work a little bit of a different style than. There's a lot of people in NXT who work almost identical styles. Like, it's like the same thing over and over. A lot of the big matches are great. They're like 9 out of 10. It's like almost perfect matches, but they are the same match over and over and over and over again. That's why I love Thatcher, who looks so unique in his style. Kyle O'Reilly works this NXT style I'm talking about, but he can do a lot of his submission stuff and cool striking, so he does look different sometimes. Roderick Strong also works the same style, but at least his offense is based around backbreakers, so no one really does that. Where it's like a lot of backbreakers in matches and different variations. So at least that's unique to him. Adam Cole works that style, but he obviously has a lot of psychology and a lot of storytelling aspects. Gargano, it's almost everyone works the same style. Kushida to me works a little bit of a different style because he's like a wizard on the ground. There are a few wizards. Pete Dunne is also a wizard on the ground. Thatcher is a wizard on the ground. All of a sudden, we're finding a lot of people who are wizards on the ground, and it looks really, really cool. And when it's done right, it's just art. It's just beautiful. It's awesome. And if WWE has enough of these types of people, I don't know. You can make a whole damn show around these damn people. Like I don't know. Maybe make a. I felt like they were gonna do that with Daniel Bryan. Remember when they were giving him a few guys, and they almost like they were gonna make almost an MMA type team.
Yep.
Something to consider. Maybe in the future, you have a few guys. You can put these guys together and just break bones. Go out there breaking arms and. It's really, really cool. Pete Dunne, I know he hasn't been presented as a top guy, but he is a guy that when he is given the ball, he delivers. I'll never forget his match against Tyler Bate, which is one of my favorite matches. Both those kids just, and this was a Pete Dunne that was, he had the weird body. He wasn't shredded like he is now. They were kids. This was a while ago. They're still kids
like 5
now.
years ago. It felt like it was about 5 years ago.
Yeah. Point. So they were really. Tyler Bate might have been 20 years old during that match, or younger. Who knows? And they just had a beautiful, beautiful match. And again, Pete Dunne, you give him the ball, he delivers again. Even though some people can argue maybe he shouldn't be in a main event match, I'm okay with guys being given main event matches on big shows if you really know that they're going to at least deliver in the ring. And he delivers in the ring. We know he can deliver in the ring. He looked as good as Finn throughout the entire match. Physically, he looked almost as good as Finn because Finn has a perfect body. To me, that's the best Pete Dunne I've ever seen. Everything is put together. Some of the best facials to me, too. His natural face is great. Just his face, it always looks angry, just when he's chilling. It's just angry, mean,
I don't think I've ever seen him smile.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome to see. He's awesome. And I think he's going to continue to be awesome. It's okay that he lost. I'm okay with him losing. It was fine. But now that you see what he can do in the main event, let's keep him in the main event. Let's see. Let's keep building him up, building, making him stronger. I think it's a strong character. He has a very good face. Now he has a good physique, and he has great in-ring skill. Let's keep working on this guy. Let's keep him up top. Let's give him some cool stuff to do. I want to see this guy in every takeover for the next couple of years. He's really good.
I agree with you. Again, I'm finding myself agreeing with you a lot tonight. The reality is with a guy like Pete Dunne is fantastic. The thing that hinders him, believe it or not, I hate saying this, but what's hindering him is that he's in a heel faction with Lorcan and Birch, who, with, again, no disrespect meant to these guys, they don't add anything to his presentation. And McAfee, unfortunately, takes away from Pete Dunne because McAfee is so good on the mic and he draws all the attention. So you can have Pete Dunne be the enforcer, but the thing is that Pete Dunne with this match, it feels like he's graduated to a point where he should be standing on his own, just apart from the group. And that's something that's going to hinder him. You know, it's something that WWE needs to consider making some kind of a change, because I think that McAfee with Lorcan and Birch works. If they want to get a fourth guy, they need to get a guy who can be a badass enforcer type. And maybe when Ridge Holland comes back from his injury, he might be the right guy to fit that bill, because he's a guy that can be the muscle man and the he could be the heavy, but he's not a guy that is going to be working main events at this particular point. I think Pete Dunne's graduated to a point now where he needs to be separated from that group. The match was excellent. It was a match that went 30 minutes. Was the match slow in the beginning? Yes, it was slow, and it was slow on purpose.
Yeah, but it was slow and good. So
it was slow and good, but it was
very technical. Yeah,
it was technical and slow, and it was done on purpose, and it was great. And I love the fact that Wade Barrett did a fantastic job of explaining it. Now, again, to the European audience, they would probably say, "Hey, Finn Balor and Pete Dunne, this is like a WrestleMania main event." To the European audience. To the American audience, this is not a sexy match at all. It's not. It's just like, all right, if you know about Pete Dunne and you know about Finn Balor, you know that you're going to get a great match, but it's not a match that you're going to get up for. But on this particular card, the way the card was laid out, there wasn't anything really super sexy about this card to begin with. Nothing. So this match was not sexy at all, but it was a great, fantastic match. Yes. Oh my God, his name escapes me. Pete Dunne. My God, I'm sorry. Pete Dunne probably got about 60-40 for him in this match.
Mm-hmm.
So he did get his shit in. And and I love the way that Balor sold his hands, where he was like looking like this, like his hands are all crippled, like he can't do any of his finger pointing and any of that stuff. That was great selling on his part, because he's selling all the stuff that Pete Dunne did to him. And Pete Dunne was basically getting the better of Balor for like the first 10 minutes of the match, where he was exposing the injury to Balor's neck, the injury to his arm, all the stuff that had been done to Balor all the weeks leading up to this match. And then when Balor started working on Pete Dunne's leg, then it became like, all right, tit for tat type of thing. You get me, I get you. And the thing is that it started as a technical wrestling match with the heel exposing the weaknesses on the babyface based on the story that they told prior to the match. The babyface then getting a weakness on the heel, working on the leg. And then the match went from a slow technical match to a physical dissection to super aggressive. And then they sped it up at the end, and get all their big hurrah spots in. The fact that Balor, when he hit Pete Dunne with the coup de grace, and then he got the 1916 on him, I think that I would have probably felt better if he just would have beat him with the coup de grace, because hitting him with the 1916 was a little too emphatic, and I wanted to make it look like Balor got by. Like, I think that was a little too emphatic, and I think that I would have been okay without that. The aftermath of the match when you had, Lorcan and Birch come in and beat up on Balor and put him down. Pete Dunne did the correct thing. He sold for the correct amount of time. He was out for about a minute or two, so he sold correctly. Then he got up. The baby faces, the Undisputed Era come in and they come in for the save, and we're like, all right. When I saw this happening, I was like, all right, what the hell is going on here? I was like, Undisputed Era continues to help Finn Balor, and I'm like, is either Balor is going to join the Undisputed Era, which I highly doubt, or someone in Undisputed Era has to turn. And thank God we got the turn. Adam Cole said enough of this nonsense. Super kicks Balor right. Super kicks him right in the teeth. Down he goes. Kyle O'Reilly's like, what the hell are you doing? He gets one for his trouble. And Roderick Strong's looking there like, he's looking like he's probably in the middle of a fight between his wife and his mother. He doesn't know what the hell to do.
Yes.
It was beautifully done, because I think that Adam Cole, I don't want to say that Adam Cole sucks as a babyface, but his natural role is as a heel, and it was really well done. I just hope that there's some story to tell, because if you're going to tell Cole versus O'Reilly versus Balor, that's fine. But now it's, what do you do with Roderick Strong and with Bobby Fish once he returns? Like, what do you do with them? And it's an interesting story. I just don't know how to lay it out at the moment.
It is interesting. It's also the right thing to do, because I'm glad, I don't know who noticed it. Someone had to notice that Undisputed Era was just Adam Cole and friends. And unfortunately, even if you like Undisputed Era, it's very difficult while the group is together to get all four guys to feel like they're on the same level. Especially when Adam Cole is a beloved, he's one of those guys that's just always going to be over. He's just one of those guys that wherever he goes, he becomes a top star.
In that environment, yes, he's super over in that environment. Yes, he is.
Yeah, but everywhere everywhere that man has been, he has been the most popular, the most talked about person on the show. In Ring of Honor, eventually he took it over. Even when he goes to PWG, he gets the loudest cheers. Everywhere he shows his face, this guy is so popular. It's probably because he connects really well. He talks really well, and he actually has a great look from here to here. He has a really good face. So
he sells a lot with his face. He does a great job.
So yeah, for some reason, this guy, it's hard to get, to get as over as him. If you are walking around next to him, it's like, but apart and against each other, I think it's the way to go, especially for O'Reilly. And I went to Final Battle, I forget what year, but the main event was Adam Cole versus O'Reilly. And
2015, I believe.
And it was really, really good shit. It was so good. Cole did his job as the heel, O'Reilly as the babyface. These guys both got over. They both felt like equals. And I see Fish as a mid-card guy. I've always seen him that way. That doesn't mean he can't be more. Of course he can, but I see him as an IC title guy, hovering around there, really, really good worker, having good matches. And I kind of see the same thing from Strong. I've always seen him as a guy who's going to win the IC title someday, almost like a Lance Storm type. I kind of see him, Like, he's going to have his fan base. He's going to have people who love his work, and everyone's going to love working with him. And he'll have a job forever. But O'Reilly, I see him as a potential top guy, at least in NXT, for sure. Even if the main roster, they don't want to use him that way, that's fine. But right here, in this environment, among his peers in NXT, looking at the roster today, he should be a top 3 babyface, a guy who can be in and out of the main event for the rest of his time in NXT. This is the right way to go. It's also nice it makes sense for Adam Cole, anyone who knows anything about Adam Cole, for Adam Cole to have about enough of this shit. Enough is enough. I am not going to share this spotlight for I don't know how many months. Enough with this bullshit. Enough of me sharing the ring and sharing the spotlight with you. Like, come on. Now you're gonna try to get Finn to join us? No, I am the star. It needs to stay that way. When he kicked Finn, I saw that coming. But as soon as he kicked Finn, and I was literally yelling at the TV, now kick him too. Kick him too. Kick him too. And when he kicked him, I yelled, yes, yes, yes. And I think I went to text you or call you. I think I texted you right away.
Did. And I answered you back, no spoilers. I
wasn't gonna drop a spoiler, but I was really excited. And sometimes the stories on NXT don't get me so excited. The matches get me excited, but I need more than just matches. Sometimes I need things to happen to these wrestlers. I just need, something needs to happen here. People need to, to stop being friends, or people need to become friends. Stories need to be told. You need to begin a story. You need to tell it. Then you get to the end, and then you move on. And you can always call it back in the future. And you remember these stories. You can't just do nothing and just set it up with, okay, then the next person shows up. Then they have a feud for 3 months. Then the next person shows up. That's not good enough. No, what happened at the end of that show, that was cool. It was fun. It involved the right people. These are people that are popular, that people want to see involved in interesting stories. Yes. Yes. I'm very excited. I don't know where it's going because now it's kind of a three-way thing. But let's see. And I do hope it ends with O'Reilly winning that title. And that's the tear-jerking moment. I'm hoping he gets the title and starts crying. And we all, see him as an even bigger star than he is right now.
I mean, the thing is when you take a look at the way that that match will be constructed, Adam Cole is obviously the clear heel, O'Reilly's the clear babyface, and Balor is the tweener. The issue that I have again with Balor being the tweener is that it's weird to me. Like, he comes across as too pretty to not be a babyface, but he doesn't fight dirty enough to be a heel. You understand what I'm saying? He's just aggressive. And you could be aggressive and still be a babyface. And that's the thing about it. He straddles that fence a little too close to where it's almost like you could be a tweener. I don't care. But it's a matter of give me more of a lean one way or the other so that I can understand that at some point you are going to go full out one way or the other. Whether you're going to go full baby or full heel, you're going to do it at some point because you're leaning that way anyway, and you're kind of leading me in that direction. But he straddles the middle a little too much, and what ends up happening is that for his opponents, it kind of comes across like in this example against Pete Dunne, he was the babyface. Balor was the babyface because of all the things that Dunne, Lorcan, and Birch had done to him over the course of the last, 4 or 5 weeks prior to the match. But when he wrestled against O'Reilly was the babyface. So what is he? He's not the heel because he's not cheating. He doesn't do enough to be a heel, but he's not a babyface either because he's not going to have the same level of sympathy O'Reilly has. So there's just so many different nuances with Balor that's that one little thing from a psychological perspective that kind of makes him feel a little bland to me. I love Cole as a heel. O'Reilly has been getting over as a babyface. I think that after his initial matches with Balor, I think the first match was fantastic, although it got cut short because they both injured each other. Accidents. They were all accidents, but they injured each other. The second match was good, but not as good. Now it's like, all right, if we're going to go down this road, we're going to have to now start featuring O'Reilly as a babyface and have him win some matches, Have him wrestle against Lorcan, Burge, Pete Dunne, whatever. Have him work those guys. They got to win those matches with the intention that at some point, you know, there's going to be a match between O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. Eventually, we're going to get to that triple threat match. Do I think that O'Reilly should win in a triple threat match? The answer is no. Cole should win the triple threat match, and O'Reilly beats Cole. It's got to be a one-on-one match because the stakes have got to be high. And the thing is that how do you move Finn Balor on? You got to get somebody else. You're going to have to write a story to remove Balor from that equation. But in the end, O'Reilly's the challenger, Cole is the champion. Then you finish telling that story. Then we say bye-bye to Adam Cole. At that point, if we're ready to move on from Adam Cole and get him out of NXT, that's the way to do it. But, besides that, again, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good here. It's just a matter that there's got to be a little seasoning here, a little bit here, take a little bit off here, put a little more there, and then you can get yourself the right ingredients. I just think that with Balor, as the tweener, he comes across as bland because he's not enough of one or the other, and he rides that fence a little too perfectly, and it just kind of he comes across as bland to me because of that.
Yeah, I think it's okay to have certain characteristics, and if those seem, and you let the fans decide almost, I'm okay with that. I kind of like that. I think it's more realistic that way. But every now and then you need to do something that's definitive. I'm a babyface because look at this one moment right here. In case y'all weren't sure, I'm gonna give you this one moment here. I'm not gonna do it often. It might even be a little subtle, but here it is. Boom. You know, whether it's saving another person that's being whatever, double teamed or whatever, doing something heroic, or just flat out doing like what Cody did after he dyed his hair black. And everyone was like, "Oh, is this the time where he turns heel?" And he kind of lays it out there. He's like, "Look, I know I've been going through some things and I've been coming off as a little dark recently, but no, I'm with you fans. I'm sticking with you guys." So even though he kind of does a little, he sticks to his character, and every now and then his character might do something heelish, but he definitively told you right there, "Look, I'm sticking with the fans. I'm your guy." Like, you know, so
Yeah,
if Finn can find a way to do that and let us know what to do, basically, like, look, are you with us, Finn? Are you, you know? I think that'll work just fine. I think I like the way you laid it out. Let Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly needs to beat Adam Cole, and we need to get to that. That's how we get O'Reilly to Cole's level. Is O'Reilly beats Cole. That's the best story. It's better than anything you're gonna do with Finn. You know, Finn is here. He's making the belt feel important right now. He's doing a good job. He's having good matches. He's doing good. You know, he still looks like Finn. He's still super cool character. But his days in NXT, I imagine, are numbered. You know, if his job was to elevate it as best he could, that's fine. He's done a great job. You have Adam Cole beat him, and you get him out of that feud by just bringing him up. Start him right away with a major feud on the main roster that makes the people, the fans watching, go, "Oh yes, Finn's gonna face this guy now. That's awesome."
Correct.
And then we can focus on Cole and O'Reilly, and that's it. That's it. You know, and then when O'Reilly beats Cole, that'll be the big story right there. Even if it takes a year to get there, that has to be the end game for O'Reilly. That's the end of that story. And I hope they don't do anything too crazy, kind of like the way Dean Ambrose and Rollins beat the hell out of each other with cement blocks. Don't go too far, so that
that's
in 5 years, when you go to reunite, because you know it's gonna happen, it doesn't seem super weird. It's fine to reunite in 5 years. You kind of go, "Look, we're gonna do this for the greater good, and you know, whatever it is,
we've had our differences in the past.
We had our differences. Let's do what we got to do, and let's take over, you know, and whatever, blah 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 blah."
As they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So
exactly. So either way, it's still really really cool stuff. So it's a reason to watch. So good for them.
Yeah. I can't complain. That was very well executed.
All right, so let's go to a couple of some news going around. Well, let's go with the one we kind of made a face about earlier, didn't get to talk about, but we kind of had the same idea. So apparently, it looks like Taya Valkyrie has agreed to terms with WWE and will start in NXT. Yeah, and that's coming from Bleacher Report. So it looks like it's official. Taya is really, really cool character. She's been around a long time. She's a really, really good worker. She is top, not top guy, but top girl. So she's champion everywhere she's been, literally. And I think when we made that face, she especially the way things work in NXT, where it's kind of somebody comes in as a surprise. That's kind of what makes NXT cool. It used to happen more often back in the day. And that's kind of why people liked NXT, because I don't think the television was as great as people thought. But I think every 3 weeks you would get a surprise, or every 5 weeks, and that's cool. No matter what, surprises are cool, and getting new characters, that's always fun. It's so maybe she's the person to beat Io Shirai. She's a great heel. She can be very, very annoying. She can work like a heel. She can talk like a heel. She might be the perfect person to take that belt off Io Shirai. And it's perfect timing if you ask me, because obviously the people they have in place are not ready just yet. Ty has been ready for a long, long time. Let's put the rocket on her back, baby, to the moon.
To the moon. Listen, all I have to say, it's about damn time. It's about damn time that Taya Valkyrie signs with the WWE. It's only about 10 years too freaking late. But whatever. I'll take it.
Hey, she's a better worker now than she was 10 years ago.
I agree. It's
gonna be great. Where's Tessa? How does she sign before Tessa? Either way,
do you want me to waste more of my saliva talking about how the hell Tessa Blanchard hasn't been signed by the WWE or AEW or any other North American promotion?
There must be some sort of plan.
Something is amiss there that we don't know about. But my God. Anyway, we're talking about Taya Valkyrie here. Listen, Taya is a fantastic talent. She's most recently worked on Impact Wrestling, and at the last Impact Wrestling pay-per-view, she did the job to Deonna Purrazzo, doing the right thing, doing the job out the door and establishing Deonna Purrazzo as the top woman on Impact Wrestling. And Deonna was, and the really ironic thing about it was that Deonna came to Impact from the WWE, where for some reason WWE just didn't see the value in Deonna, which to me it just baffles my mind, really, because of how good Deonna is. I don't know if it's a matter of the physical look, whatever, that maybe she's an excellent worker but doesn't come in the right package for WWE. I don't get it. She's terrific and she's doing fantastic work for Impact Wrestling. So nobody loses there. WWE's loss is Impact Wrestling's gain. With Taya Valkyrie, Taya had been working for Impact Wrestling for a very long time. And it got to the point where it's like, all right, there's nothing more for her to do in Impact. Like, it's almost to the point where she had like this legend status in Impact Wrestling. And I'm like, all right, once they start almost referring to you in that vein, it's time to go. And there was no point. I mean, listen, the only other place that she could have gone to was AEW. And again, I've already bemoaned this on many occasions of how bad AEW's women's division is. And I don't think that Taya coming in alone was going to be able to fix that. And I know that she's married to John Morrison, So obviously there's a relationship there with WWE, but even independent of that, she should be wrestling for the WWE. Let's just say that this is, she might be in the twilight of her career. Most people may not know this. Taya Valkyrie's been working for 15 years minimum, maybe longer than that. She worked in Mexico for a very long time before anybody in North America saw her. She's been working for a very long time, and she might be at the end of her rope from a wrestling perspective. So if she's going to go out, let's just say that this might be, her last run or whatever, working for the WWE, it's going to be, again, work for the largest possible audience you can. And again, with all the talent and all the experience that she brings, she's going to be a tremendous asset to NXT. And working for the WWE, it's going to be tremendous for Taya as a worker, because she's going to learn so much working there. So it's mutually beneficial for all the parties involved. Again, if NXT's women's division have not done a good enough job of creating opponents that can make you believe that Io Shirai could be defeated, will enter Taya Valkyrie. Do I think that she should be presented with the same gimmick she had on Impact? No. She needs to come with something different. But I honestly believe that if Taya comes in and is able to come out of the block strong, like really, really strong, yeah, I could see Taya being somebody who can beat Io Shirai if we're still waiting on the Raquel González. If we're putting a pause on that in any way, shape, or form, then Taya Valkyrie is a tremendous opponent, and then use her as a means to be able to rebuild the Toni Storms, the Mercedes Martinez's, Tegan Knox when she comes back from injury. There's so many women on the NXT roster that could work with Taya and have good matches. So it's exciting. I'm excited to see this. I think that it's something that is long overdue, and I'm really, really happy to see Taya Valkyrie in the WWE. I'm very excited for all parties involved.
All right, we're talking about Taya. We also need to talk about another female wrestler who we might not be seeing for a while.
Yeah,
Lacey Evans, who is doing really good work as of late, and is in a bit of a. She's in a storyline that needed to be completed. It's one of those stories that you cannot just leave because you put Ric Flair, the most beloved wrestler possibly of all time, against his daughter, who's not very much loved. She's very popular, but she's kind of more on the heel side. Even when she's a babyface, she's always kind of seen as a heel. And you've told the story where we're supposed to get behind Charlotte because of Rick's decisions. And this story you needed to get, by the end of the story, you needed to get Rick and Charlotte back together, because it makes no sense for them to have issues. They can have issues, but we've seen Rick show us on television how much he loves Charlotte, regardless of the things that she's done to him on television. So for him to be the heel in this story, you could have easily told the story. That's fine. Just to set up a match with Lacey and Charlotte. That's all gravy. But by the end of the story, the finish needed to be when Rick and Charlotte hug at the end. And now Lacey's having a baby.
For real. For real.
For real. Yes.
For real. This is a shoot. This is not.
So unfortunately, they might not be able to finish the story.
They're not.
They're gonna have to find a way to get Rick to apologize to Charlotte or something. I don't know how they're gonna do it, because normally they could have easily did Lacey going overboard on Charlotte and beating on Charlotte, almost like remember Savage and Elizabeth, when she comes in to make the save on that famous moment after they kind of weren't together for a while, and she comes into the ring and everyone's like crying, and he looks at her and he kind of
I think here the way that this story could be salvaged is, listen, first off, before we start, congratulations to Lacey Evans and to her husband on this pregnancy. Listen, having children is a beautiful blessing, and you know, just God bless you. Hope that you have a beautiful baby boy or girl 9 months from now. The reality is that unfortunately, from a storyline perspective, the actual story that we wanted to see is not going to happen. However, I think that this is actually a fantastic opportunity while Lacey Evans is in the first trimester of her pregnancy, that she could be able to continue this storyline in a non-physical role and be able to help get somebody else over. You know, I know that she was tag teaming with Peyton Royce for a while, and of course, listen, Peyton Royce had, you know, we've already bemoaned a lot about the situation with her and the Iconics when they broke them up, and it didn't seem like there was a whole lot to do. But this might be an opportunity to put Peyton Royce in that role. Will it be the same? No. But as long as Lacey is out there and she's not like super duper pregnant, you know, obviously in the first trimester, you're not gonna be. That buys the WWE probably about 7 or 8 weeks at the very least to transition the story to where you can transition out of Lacey Evans to somebody else. So I think that there is some kind of salvageable way to make this work. For me, it's like, as a fan, I'm disappointed because I really like Lacey Evans, and I think that the WWE they've been very hot and cold with her, and it was just weird. Like, I'm like, she's like the perfect baby face, meaning, you know, when you look at her, she's like, yo, she's legit military. She does work for, with the military with PTSD, does the like extreme home makeover type stuff for military folk. The podcast that she does, with, talking about mental health and all that. Like, she is, like, in real life, she is the biggest baby face you could think of. And she's presented on television as a heel, where I'm like, okay, I get it. She's a really good television personality. And when you put it on paper initially with Lacey Evans and Charlotte Flair, it's like, okay, this makes sense, because I can understand, you could kind of see where in storyline you could make this work. And obviously the ending would be Ric Flair would see the error of his ways and he'd go back, he and his daughter would reunite, and Lacey Evans would take the fall, and obviously this is after a nice, however many months storyline, to where even though Lacey Evans takes the fall at the end, she looks like $1 million at the end of it, because it's not like she'd been buried the whole time there. Again, at this point, we're not going to see that. Lacey Evans, in terms of wrestling, the next 18 months, we ain't going to see her wrestling. It's disappointing, because I think very highly of her as a wrestler. I think very highly of her, and that, and that says a lot, because the WWE women's roster is stacked. They got a lot of good talent, at varying levels and at different, in different places in their careers. But, she was right in the thick of things. And again, listen, being pregnant and having babies is a beautiful blessing. But at the same time, for us as fans, selfishly, it's like, damn it, we've lost you now for the next year and a half, at the very least. So, I think that now the best thing to do is that while the WWE now, they kind of got caught with their pants down this week, because they discovered that she was pregnant when they did the physicals for Raw. So they discovered it then. So there was really no way to rewrite the story to kind of make it work. They just had to take what they had and do what they could. Now I think that over the next few weeks, until Lacey Evans gets like really pregnant, where it starts to show, maybe it's time to transition to some other female that can work with Charlotte and continue the storyline. And then if Lacey Evans wants to cut promos, like video promos, and bring them in, that would be really cool, as a means to keep the storyline going, because she's legitimately pregnant, so she can't wrestle. So there's no need for her to be physically in the building. But after, as time goes on, she can cut the promos, still be Lacey Evans, and still cut those promos and keep that story going. If, especially if the other female that's put there to take her place isn't really gaining that kind of traction, you can kind of keep it going that way. So there's a lot that can be done, but at least initially, I think that's probably what WWE will do is, utilize real life as a story, but until Lacey Evans starts showing like she's after the first trimester where she starts to show, have her physically be at the shows, but obviously she's not wrestling, but kind of have her do those verbal jabs and keep the storyline going until you transition to the next person.
Yeah, and you know what also gets me upset about this whole Ric Flair thing is, like you said, Lacey is probably a perfect baby face. Charlotte is a perfect heel, no matter how hard you try to make her a baby face.
Correct.
If you don't include Rick, this opens the door for a double turn scenario, and double turns are also awesome.
When done right.
It's all when done right, and it would be almost, especially now where you have control of the crowd, where you can do pretty much
literally you have control of the crowd.
With the push of a button, you can get the crowd to do whatever you want them to do, and the crowd wants to cheer Lacey and they want to boo Charlotte already. I promise you that.
I want to cheer Lacey Evans. I don't like her being a heel, honestly. I want her to be a babyface.
Yeah, we know too much good about her already. The good thing is, though, she's going to come back. She's going to come back in a surprise scenario if they do it right. Don't announce her. It's not going to change the ratings announcing that Lacey Evans will be back.
Nope.
Don't say shit. Let her come back into a major story. Let the fans decide. If there's fans in the building, let them decide. Let's see what reaction she gets. I'm pretty sure they'll get very excited, very happy to see her. She's gonna be posting pictures with her baby probably on Instagram and all this. And of course, we're gonna fall in love with the baby. We're gonna fall in love with Lacey. We already want to love her. If she wants to come off a little bit more as a baby face in her look or whatever it is, whatever. Keep everything the same, but just turn a little bit more on the baby face side.
She could still do all the gimmick
stuff
that she does with nasties and all that. But instead of doing it to the baby faces, she does it to the heels.
Yeah, she can do everything the same. And I think it was an opportunity missed, but let's see. Anyway, final thing. We need to talk about MVP because it looks like he's gonna be gone. Probably, let me not say that. He probably won't be gone that long. It looks like he might have tore something in his knee or something because he went to go see Dr. Andrews, and we all know that he's like a torn ligament specialist, or you tear an ACL, a muscle, or like some sort of ligament, and he's the guy who's gonna try to put it back together. So
when you go see Jim Andrews, you're going under the knife, brother. That's the thing.
Yeah, so
more than likely.
Obviously it sucks, but it's okay because he is a talker. He's a guy who can talk, and he will be talking for the next 12 months. He doesn't need to wrestle. He is the voice of the Hurt Business, and he can still be effective in that role. He does not need to wrestle. He can bring crutches with him to the ring. He can throw crutches to his partners, and they can use them as weapons. They could be cool and black and gold too. So let's hope they do that.
Listen. Yeah, I'm completely with you. I guess my only concern is that MVP doesn't live in Florida. He lives in Houston. So if let's say that he has to get surgery, it may mean that he may have to make a temporary move to Florida if he wants to continuously be on WWE's programming, because I don't think that it's the most conducive to go around with a surgically repaired anything getting on planes.
Yeah, he might have to wait.
Air pressure and all that. So, you don't want to have the God forbid blood clots or anything like that. So he may have to make it, either he has to make a temporary move to Florida, or we're just going to have to temporarily as fans not see MVP, and we're going to have to see the Hurt Business without him. And with all due respect to Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander, but the Hurt Business without MVP, it looks a lot different.
Yeah. I hope they figure out a good way to do it. It's okay if he misses a month because he can't travel. That's fine. But like I said, as soon as he can travel, or if he wants to stay in Orlando, he needs to be there, even if he's on crutches. He can turn them into a gimmick, like I said.
Absolutely.
He needs to be
Absolutely.
there speaking for these guys. He is the reason they are all as over as they are. Let's be real. But we still got Lashley. Lashley has been presented as a huge deal. He's very well protected. He's scratching that main event, so he's close. He needs to do something cool, something interesting. He needs some epic wins on major shows so that we take him a little bit more seriously. They're doing a good job. He's getting there. He's a threat. We know he's a threat. So he's a guy you can do some good stuff with. MVP needs to still be involved. So hopefully, let's get this surgery over with and let's set it up so that he can come back as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And they'll be fine.
Yeah, and hopefully for his sake, it's nothing that serious. If it does require surgery, hopefully it's more on the minor side where he might have to sit out for weeks and not months. So it's just it's a matter of keeping our fingers crossed for him, because he has been his namesake since he's come back to the WWE. He really has.
Yeah,
he's been nothing short of fantastic for them.
it's
He
funny.
has been the MVP of WWE for the last 18 months that he's been there.
It's funny because they try really hard to call. They call Lashley like what they call him, the CEO.
The CEO of the Hurt Business.
Yeah. So, but in reality, MVP comes off as the biggest star. He comes off as the top guy. He comes off as the guy who should be main eventing, especially, he's at the tail end of his career. If I judged it based on how over people are in my eyes, and I didn't use age as, a prejudice, he's a main event player in his role, like the way his character has been for since he's been back. It has been a main event level performance. It's similar to to Eddie Kingston. It's like you probably didn't expect this, but this guy is so damn good on the mic. It's a main event. It's main event mic work. It just is. In my eyes, he comes across as a main event guy. I know he's older. They're not going to put him there. But that's what he's come across like to me. So that sucks. But either way.
I mean, the way that I would look at MVP's performance is, and I don't want to use this because it might be a kind of come across as a bit blasphemous, but he kind of comes across as like, the late great Bobby the Brain Heenan did as a manager, meaning a lot of times Bobby Heenan had, the top heels in the WWF, back in the 80s. And then when you look at the AWA and other places he worked previous to that. But Bobby was, you can almost argue that if Bobby was not in the corner with whoever his charge was, that guy wouldn't be nearly as over. And I think that MVP is kind of in that vein. I think the reason why you might think that MVP would be the most over guy and you'd want to incorporate that into a wrestling role is because the manager role is not, with the exception of Paul Heyman, the manager role has not been anything on WWE's TV to where you can distinguish it as that. I think MVP, if MVP were 10 years younger, then yeah, you could probably incorporate that to a wrestling run for him. But I think that in this particular case, as a manager, agent, however he wants to be, called or labeled, he has been nothing short of amazing. He's been fantastic for the WWE and for the guys that he has. I just think that with MVP, and I say this with all due respect to him, it's not that I want to tell him not to wrestle, but I think that moving forward, he probably shouldn't, because I think that he's much more effective when he gets to be the mouthpiece and get the heat for his guys and be able to get heat on himself that way. Because when he's wrestling now, he's almost looks like the guy that's taking the ass whippings for his team, because he's kind of like the player coach. He's not really the star of the team. So if there's any guy that the baby faces are going to get over on, it's going to be him. So I think that to a certain degree, I would probably look at him and say, unless it's absolutely necessary, I would not advise him to be wrestling in the WWE, at least, to keep his role as a manager and a mouthpiece, because I think that that's where he's the most effective right now.
All right. Well, that's good enough for today. That'll be all. That'll be all, folks.
That'll be all for today, folks. Just want to say thank you guys for continuing to follow us. Again, our numbers keep going up, man. We've been very blessed, and we're thankful for all the stuff you guys have been doing, man. Listening to the videos, subscribing, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the Wrestlebros, and we look forward to interacting with you guys. Leave likes, subscribe, leave comments. We'll get to all of them. Whatever comments we get, trust me, we'll answer them. And like I said, we're very thankful and very blessed to have you guys. We love you, and we'll see you again next week. Peace out.